Is someone trying to give me their diabetic coma here?
Are we on? Can you see that? No?
There we are.
Okay. The Committee of the Whole meeting of the Rolling Meadows City Council is hereby called to order. And as many of you know, this meeting is not a formal meeting, so there'll be no Pledge of Allegiance. Just curious, did anybody sign in? Our city clerk is out tonight. No one has signed in, okay. That takes care of that portion of it. Tonight's agenda, there are 3 items. The 2016 EDC update, the sewer lateral maintenance, Old Plum Grove Road Woodlands, and then there'll be a closed session this evening to follow. This meeting is closed session on land acquisition, and that will be the end of the evening. So with that, let's get started with Mr. Crumstock.
Thank you very much, Mayor Veenbaas. Actually, what we have are 2 of these are going to be informational, and then obviously the third one has additional discussion. The first one that we're dealing with, economic development recap, there's actually 2 parts of this. There's the presentation that's actually in the packet that talks about overall, we did pretty well in 2016. You can see the 76 new businesses and 17 of those being classified as home occupation. That was better than 2015, that we had 58 new businesses. 6 of those businesses were classified by home occupation. We appreciate all businesses in the city, but I think when you really look at some of the pieces, in 2016, the list, obviously it's just a very brief list of 2016, but you can look at Arthur J. Gallagher at 2900 Golf Road, and they also will be opening in 2017, 2850 Golf Road. When they're actually done with all their consultants and with all their employees between those 2 buildings, you're talking about 2,000 employees plus, if you want to consider a little bit more. When you also look in 2016, Bulldog Ale House, that's 1480 Golf Road. I hope that everybody's been able to visit all the restaurants, because Comet at 3001 Kirchhoff Road, they've been open obviously during the summer, and now they're doing coffee and ice cream during the winter. But also another one to mention is Emerald Lawn Care. That's 3890 Industrial Area. The City Council actually gave them a 6B, and they went to Cook County and they received that. And they did major remodeling plus remediation in that building. So it goes with a group that was in Rolling Meadows, then moved to Arlington Heights. Now they've expanded and moved back into Rolling Meadows. But with that other, you also talk about Gabudo Burgers, Meadows Credit Union, Ming Hin Cuisine, Nature's Care, which we've had discussions about in the past. That's a medical marijuana building and dispensary at 97.5 Rowling Road. And then Richard Building Supply Company, 4001 Industrial Avenue. As everybody remembers, that was a large group out of Palatine. They deal with all commercial and all kinds of roofing, tiles, all those kind of pieces, but that does generate sales tax for the city of Rolling Meadows. They moved from their Palatine location, which they really was too small for them at that point in time, to this new Rolling Meadows location. And then Verizon Wireless actually moved into Rolling Meadows at 1701 Golf Road, and that's actually in Tower 2. It's a call center and has over 500 people in that call center, but at the end of the day, and moving some additional people in 2017, they hope to have around 900 employees working out of that area. And then Yonan Floor Covering, they're out of other locations. This is their Rolling Meadows location. But also in 2016, when you look at another large project, and we do appreciate the RTA on this, there was a Golf Road sidewalk project. It helped in the Golf Road Mobility and Pedestrian Improvement Project. It did connect the sidewalk all throughout Golf Road. It goes under the bridges. So it actually connects both sides. But it helps with future development that's actually coming through the area, and then it would connect once Schaumburg does some work on their side of Golf Road, that it would be a sidewalk all the way through. That project obviously was started in 2015. It did finish in 2016. There's still some landscaping that needs to be done. Other than myself, the city manager, who walks the sidewalk every so often taking pictures and other things, there are actually employees of those businesses that are utilizing that. So it is a good connection. It does allow the bicyclers to go down Golf Road and make it to Bussey Woods a little bit safer. But when you look at some of the other pieces in 2016, the valuation for the city of Rolling Meadows really went from, and that's the work that was actually completed, about $28 million in 2014 to $96 million in 2015. That's mostly generated by Gallagher and 1701 Golf Road Continental, to about $67 million in 2016. Inspections, in 2014 we did 9,558. In 2015 we did 7,670, and in 2016, because of the large amount of projects between 1701, 3600, and also obviously 2850 and 2900 Golf Road, we actually hit 9,480 inspections. When we talk about some of the other pieces that we look at, and that's the permit fees, in 2014 we had a number of 574,000. In 2015, it was 1.9 million, and again, that's mostly generated from 1701 Golf Road and the Gallagher buildings at 2850 Golf Road and 2900. And then in 2016, about $981,000, and that deals with the atrium and some other pieces that have actually been in. So when you look at those permit fee numbers, it really talks about a lot of business development, and again, there is some residential work in there. Number of permits, we're pretty consistent, about 2,600 overall during those years. But the biggest point that you really need to mention, and we did this in the news and views, the most current one that you have in front of you, but also on the front page that we talked about, roughly in the last 5 years, there's been over 1 million square feet of redevelopment, renovations throughout that Golf Road corridor. And it also has brought in that corridor has, with old businesses, new businesses, and everything else, you're talking about 6,000 jobs roughly when we're all done in 2017. So that corridor continues to generate a lot of work, a lot of EAV increases. Obviously, Cook County is working on some of those. So again, a very promising 2016, and that's why we give you the recap. But when you look at 2017, there are some good things that we're seeing. Again, Lexington Homes across the street, specifically 3245 Kirchhoff Road. You know, that was supposed to be a 3-year build-out. And you can see after year 1, they're already on building 11 that they're actually working on. The Gallagher building we already talked about, that's working on. Sharkey's, which is a 5600 New Wilkie Road, that will be, WeWash will be opening up, obviously, after that renovation is completing. And then 2101 South Plum Grove Road, that's the Nick's Organic Fast Food that will be opening shortly. But with that, and the City Council will be hearing discussions from at least 2 other businesses that are looking for 6Bs to do some renovation, bring some more employees in here. And also staff has been working with a large developer who is very close to finalizing purchasing a building, and then they would like to demo that building and then bring in a new business to that. And this current building is utilized, but very limited, so it would bring in and generate some more stuff. But obviously through the EDC, and when we do the updates as we can, we try letting you know all the pieces that we're working on. And obviously, staff-wise, we're pretty busy talking to people. Not everybody comes back to us, but it does help. I would reiterate, anybody working and wants to start a project, please come in and talk to staff. And once you have started and you filed your permit, again, typically it's taking staff about 5 to 7 days to turn around a permit, specifically with your questions. It's taking contractors, developers, about 3 to 4 weeks to get back to those. So the delays typically are not the city of Rolling Meadows. It deals with obviously some of those other pieces. But again, we're trying to keep this short, but that's the 2016 that we felt very comfortable with and we did very well with and economically.
Very good. Are there any questions or discussion for Barry on the economic development? Or anyone from the Economic Development Committee want to talk? Or no? No? Well, I'm going to bring it up then. Quick update on Dominic's. Anything that you'd like to share with us?
Not really. Obviously, people have seen the fencing around. They're getting ready to do their demolition of the property. For about the next 2 weeks, roughly, the fire department is going to be doing some training in there as some of the parts of the building is demoed. There's still Collar, who they're using to do their advertising, is advertising very aggressively, but no big bites to get all pieces of the property. Right now, the closest that you really get are getting 2 out of the 3, and then the third one's still out there, so then that doesn't work. There's still some other rental companies that would be looking at it, but the council has been very clear about that they're not really looking for rentals. But again, Dominic's is still being discussed, it's still being marketed, and at some point, we hope that Fritz will be back one way or another.
Okay, very, very good. And one last comment too. Are we keeping track of retention? Are we losing businesses as we keep gaining, or do you have a feel for that, or can you get that information?
We're still having infill, and that's a good thing. And that's what we see a lot more of. And when we talk about those numbers of new businesses, those are mostly infills. We don't see a lot of closures. I mean, I guess the one, if you want to say that, strange thing that happened was Pi 5 opened, and then within 4 months they closed. But that's some other pieces that go into business and some other discussions that go into a new business. But at the same point in time, most of the businesses have been here and stay in. The infills that we still have are filling in. We can tell you that at the Jewel Shopping Center, that company is very close to finalizing one fitness group and then one other potential retail, but the fitness is closer than the retail. But again, it's still a lot more infill that we have. We still have some big tracks that are out there, but at the same point in time, when you look at a lot of the other businesses where they just have storefronts vacant, ours has mostly been the infill in some of these other buildings that we've known that have been vacant or really limited use. And I think that you can look on industrial. I think you can look in their area where Emerald actually moved in lawn care. That was something that was really vacant for a period of time. So maybe people on the council don't always see it, but we do see it. And we will be back at a future committee of the whole meeting, and it's more of a request to the city council. The Economic Development Committee will start making additional contact, so it's just not staff that's making contact to some of these new businesses, but we will be back at a future, giving you guys homework for a future date.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion at all? Okay, that ends that item then. Let's move on to the sewer lateral maintenance.
This one is actually, I'm going to do the intro as Public Works Director Fred Vogt walks up here. Again, this is number 2 for informational basis. And this is really just to clarify some things, talk about it, inform people. There's really been some confusion over with residents and sometimes some staff members regarding the maintenance of sanitary sewer lateral service pipes, the procedures that we do here in the city of Rolling Meadows, which are different from most municipalities around us, and then obviously what Public Works does with those things. But with that, there is a full report with you, but I will let Public Works Director Fred Vogt continue on with that information.
Good, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Barry, and thank you, Mayor. I did put out at everyone's seat tonight a larger scale version of the typical that's in the packet regarding what we call long services, short services. You may want to refer to that as I go through the presentation. Rolling Meadows is pretty unique. We only know of a few other communities in the north and the west, northwest suburban areas that do this, but the city maintains the sewer lateral pipe from the sanitary sewer main in the street or in the parkway all the way up to the edge of the parkway. And most communities don't do that. And when I say maintenance, I need to be specific. For what we call routine maintenance, which would simply be rotting of a sewer pipe if it gets clogged up or with roots or for other reasons. We looked for the homeowner to pay the cost of that. But if there are any reasons by which excavation is needed within the parkway, within the street, that's where the city takes that over, and that's covered by the sewer fund with regards to the city taking that on. Just as an example, in 2016, we had 6 instances where we had to do an excavation in the parkway. In 2015, we had 10 repairs that we had to do for the residential services. This is in the municipal code, specifically dealing with single-family detached dwellings, not any other type of dwelling units, just single-family. And as far as we know, it's been that way since day one, or since the city started the utility company back in the 50s. A lot of people don't understand that. Our Public Works Department crews do our best to explain that. There's a number of pieces of information within the packet, copies of handouts that we distribute to residents when we do get called, articles in the newsletter. But still, some people get confused by it. And what we've been seeing and hearing lately is our request and promotion, as we've put in newsletters, to call the Public Works Department first. And as I've myself had to explain to some people, well, no, that doesn't mean if your toilet is plugged up and you know the reason why, you may not need to call Public Works first, or if one of your drains in your laundry tubs is running slow because a lot of lint has been in it, you can fix that yourself or call a plumber. You don't necessarily need to call Public Works. But if there's any doubt at all with regards to your sewer lateral service coming out of the house, it's best to call us. That's what we're here for. We respond 24/7 on weekends, at night, if somebody's got a need and we can't wait till the following morning to check it out. We'll come in and do an investigation. We want to make sure first that our city main lines are clear and operating properly, that's not the cause of a backup or a slow-running sewer. We can check the lines if the homeowner has a clean-out, either up at the house or in the yard or out at the street. In some locations, that is out in the parkway. We can do an investigation. If there's not a clean out, then that becomes a bit more difficult. But certainly we can do our share to try to save the homeowners money, try to keep them from having to incur the cost of a contract plumber. If we can't find the problem, if we suspect that the problem is at the homeowner's end, we will tell them that, and it's really up to them at that point to choose and to contact a plumber. We don't make recommendations per se, but we will televise and investigate as best we can to try to help the homeowners out. And as I say, in cases where we have had to do excavations, that is our responsibility. Every once in a while, we run into a situation where if a homeowner takes it upon themselves, calls a plumber, they come in for permits to do an excavation in the parkway, only to find out through the permit review process that, well, no, that's for the city to do. And it can get a little contentious at times. Some plumbing things aren't always the easiest things to deal with and are usually emergencies and are very stressful for people. But what we are planning to do here in the upcoming months is not only to work with our News and Views editor to make that more clear. In the report is basically the whole second page is an outline of things that we want the residents to understand. We will revise our handout letters to try to walk residents through the processes and just get the public information out there better, and hopefully people will understand that there's nothing wrong with calling the Public Works Department first to do the investigations, again, because it is a unique situation that the city does do the excavation, maintenance, and pipe repairs in the entire parkway and street area. So that's what we wanted to share, just for information purposes, so everyone here is aware of that, anyone watching on the television is aware of that, and you'll see more coming out in the News and Views and other materials just to make sure that we do our best to communicate that. If there's any questions about our maintenance and the like, Dan Saveska from Underground Utilities is here and can certainly be called on to answer any specific technical questions.
And we do, just for people at home, if you haven't read through the documents, roughly 6 were done in 2016, 10 in 2015. For the city to do some of this work, it ranges between $3,000, $5,000 to do the work. And as we've talked about in Public Works, not everybody has a cleanout. And if everybody had a cleanout, it would be much easier to do certain work. And that's actually something that we talked about, that doesn't make sense that we tell everybody they should be having their cleanout, because we are one of the communities that are doing the full lateral work. And if you're going to keep that program working, it always is better if you have the cleanout, because it's going to be much quicker for us to repair, replace, and deal with than people who don't have. And I think, and I can't remember on the top of my head, it's about 20% or 15% of the homes still don't have a cleanout.
It's probably accurate, yes.
So that's just something else that we've talked about. So
Yeah, 'cause installing cleanouts helps, and sometimes in situations that may be the first recommendation is to have a cleanout installed by a plumbing contractor to be able to further investigate, not only at that point in time, but for future maintenance needs, to be able to do that rather than having to enter the house.
Very good. Any discussion, any questions, Mr. Judd?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This seems to be like fairly onerous on the city. I don't have a problem with the fact that we take care of the laterals that you're talking about, but to have everybody call prior to getting their houses rotted out just to see if it's roots or whatever seems to be an onerous task. I mean, I've had numerous situations where I've had to have it rotted, and you have it rotted and it's done. But as compared to paying the city, or not paying the city, but having the city come out and check each one and say, oh yeah, you need it rotted. I mean, I think the first step should be the residents can get it rotted, and if there's an issue, then they can call the city for help, because I had that situation. But it seems to me like if we're telling the residents to call, we're just going to place undue and unnecessary work on the staff to go check out a house, and for them to throw a camera down there and say, okay, yep, you've got roots, you need to rot it out. I mean, how much extra time are we going to take if we're doing that? And I mean, I agree with the laterals, and I don't have a problem with that. You know, obviously there's a reason other communities have chosen not to, but it doesn't seem like it's a huge cost. I mean, 10 of them at $5,000, it's only $50,000. I mean, I think that's a good service to provide the residents, but using a camera to check for junk in the you know, the sewer pipe, I mean, it's pretty easy and pretty obvious when that's the case. I mean, you know, everything's working good. All of a sudden, it's, you know, starting to slow down. It starts gurgling in the tub. You get it rotted out, and you're done. You know, why have the city go and spend the time and effort to throw a camera down there, especially if we're talking at 7 o'clock at night and we're talking overtime or Sunday or something like that? It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. I mean, if the guy goes in there and can't get whatever he needs done, and he can say, you know, the city's a problem. You know, there's a problem. You might want to call the city. Or, you know, I need to dig it up, and then I think at that point in time they should call the city and say, let's throw a camera down there. But
Appreciate the comment. Any comment about that, Fred?
Yes, just to point out that oftentimes who we're trying to reach are the first-time homeowners with a problem. Certainly, we've experienced a number of homes where if maintenance rotting is something that the homeowners have to do every 6 months or year or two, they know that and generally will not call us if they know well enough the operation of their sewer service. But many times, either new homeowners or people who may have lived there many years but have never had experienced a problem are the ones that we're trying to reach. We certainly try to minimize overtime. Sewer issues sometimes can't wait, but oftentimes can till the following morning if we're aware of it and can check on things then. If people are very upset or, experiencing a backup at that time, yes, there are occasions where we may come in at 7 at night or on the weekends to investigate, to try to help them out. But again, a lot of times people learn from the experience and know how to do the proper maintenance from then on and won't necessarily call us.
Fair enough. Thank you, Fred. Any other, Mr. Judd?
So do you have a list then of people that, we've gone out once or twice and it's rotting and we're not going to go out again? I mean, do we have some kind of comprehensive list so you're not going out 7 times just because the guy wants to make sure and doesn't, my neighbor said it needs to be dug up. I just want to make sure, but you tell him 7 times you got to rot it. I mean, I'm being a little facetious with the number, but I mean, is there any kind of list you're keeping track of who you've gone to and who you haven't? And I mean, because the roots, once they get in, they found a way in, they're going to keep going in.
We definitely keep track
Thank you.
of the experiences that we have, the permits that we have. I'm sure that Dan being here and his crew probably recognize more often than not, without even looking it up, addresses that they've had multiple experiences with, and try to coach them through it without having to do the work that otherwise would be something that they should spend on a plumber.
Yeah, from my experience, Fred, from what you just said, too, we kind of know the areas where the issues are, and we kind of know the houses where the issues are, and they get to be pretty well known, I think.
Yeah, not all the time, but a lot of times it's speaking from experience. You, Dan?
If you don't mind. Thank you. For Mr. Judd, one of the reasons, though, we tell the residents about our camera is that after their sewer lines rotted out, we want to make sure they're getting what they're paid for. So we put the camera in there, we do an investigation with the camera real quick, make sure that the rotting was done properly. A lot of times the rotting's not done properly and they have to call the contractor to come back. Sometimes they don't get a warranty, so we're trying to protect the resident. So we put the camera in there, we televise it. If the line looks great, everything's good. It takes us 15, 20 minutes. It's not that big of a deal. But in some cases, we've cut some contractors that maybe haven't done the job thoroughly, and they need to go ahead and come back and redo it again. So that protects the resident. And that's really what we're doing with the camera, to investigate. The other question, or the thing I'd like to bring up, is when they initially get a call and they're having issues with their sewer line, somebody that knows that they've had their sewer rotted before, they just pop their clean out cap and they realize that, hey, I've got a backup. I need to have my line rotted out. They don't need to call us. We've had some first-time residents come into Rolling Meadows after living in other municipalities. They don't know about some of our programs. They don't know about some of the things that we do. So we go ahead and encourage them to call us first. We can give them a detailed list of some of the things that we do as a municipality, and we let them know some of our programs. One of the things we used to do years and years ago was a information packet or a welcome packet to residents, so they kind of got an idea of what we were all about, and it's something we should probably look at investigating and maybe doing down the line again, especially for new-time residents, a little welcome packet to let them know what Public Works is all about and what some of the things that we do.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate that clarity there. Yes, Mr. Prano.
Just very quickly is that I think it's an excellent program. I've had many, many residents' problems solved. And one of the things riding along with Public Works that I discovered is not only is it good for the residents, but it's also good for the city, because once they go out there, I've had the opportunity to see, well, we have a problem on this street. So we shot the camera down there. Part of it is the resident, but part of this is us. And we have some excellent employees out there that make up a little mental note, so when it comes time. So I think they do an excellent job, and I just say kudos for what you're doing.
Thank you. Any other comments? Then thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Moving on to item number 3, the Old Plum Grove Woodlands area.
As Fred changes sheets, and there's little boards to be changed for this one too. This is another one, but we do have some summaries at the end with a recommendation. But we wanted to bring this up because it's been about 4 years plus that we've actually had this discussion. It does specifically talk about a section that we are starting already plan for, and it deals with doing some capital improvement items that the Capital Improvement Committee will be talking about. But it also talks about doing utilities before we do a street, because we prefer to do it that way instead of do the street and then do the utilities and then you're ripping up a nice street. But we're also talking about some of the patching that would need to be done in overall the Woodlands area, and that deals with utilities, with water and sewer. And obviously during the intro and during the write-up, you see which areas actually have sewer lines that go through that people have not hooked up to, and then you also see where there are certain water lines that we have that people still have not hooked up to. And again, when they do hook up those properties, they do have to have an extra fee that's associated with that. A lot of people still on their own wells, a lot of people on their own pits, if you want to call it that. But again, the rear yards are available, but at the same point in time, that's why we felt it's very important to have this discussion. Also for the Capital Improvement Committee to bring that back before we start working on 2018, 2019, and some of the other pieces. And with that, turn it over to Fred.
Thank you, Barry. And as Barry said, this is a topic that, if you look back, does come up every 4 or 5 years for various reasons, some by homeowners' requests, some by cities' needs. Historically, in the area, and I've got the map here just in case anybody doesn't know exactly where Plum Grove, Old Plum Grove Woodlands is, which is just west of Plum Grove Junior High. It involves several streets, Brockway, Brookview, Sunset, Plum Blossom, and Grove, that are rural in nature. They don't have curbs, they don't have storm sewers. The only street out there that does have curbs and storm sewers is Old Plum Grove Road itself, which was reconstructed and jurisdictionally transferred from the county to the city about 8 or 10 years ago. Back in 2001, at the request and recommendations of the fire chief at that point, we, as a city, began to put in, for fire protection purposes, water mains on these streets. We completed all of them over the course of a number of years. The only streets that don't have water mains for fire protection at this time are Grove Road and Plum Blossom Trail, which are south of Old Plum Grove Road. Sanitary sewers were put in on Old Plum Grove Road when it was reconstructed, and a portion was put in a few years later on Brockway Street by a home builder that wanted to extend the sanitary sewer. So there's several homes that were passed as the sanitary sewer was put in, but sanitary sewers are not yet installed on Sunset, Brookview, about half, the northern half of Brockway, and then Grove and Plum Blossom Trail. When the water mains were put in, they were routed so as to avoid removal of trees. There's a lot of, shall I say, stately oaks and stately other varieties of trees in that area, and we were very sensitive to that to avoid trees. In some places, the water mains were put in underneath the road just to avoid trees. The same difficulty we will have with if and when we install sanitary sewers, but that's part of our concern, is that it's one thing to not put in a utility and say we'll do it later, but because of the roadway geometrics, the roadways don't always even follow the rights of way out there. It is more challenging than a normal city street in terms of extending utilities. So given the street conditions, given the fact that we do from time to time get requests from prospective homeowners as well as redevelopers that have done a few tear downs out there, one that's currently in progress, and I mentioned in the report at 5250 Sunset, where if that homeowner would extend the sanitary sewer actually from their backyard, could have access to the city sewer system. If that were done, it would also help the city in terms of future extensions on Sunset and or Brookview, but that's getting into more details than I need to at this point. Today we received another inquiry on Brookview Lane with regards to sanitary and water service. Obviously, water service was installed several years ago. Sanitary sewer has not, so the neighborhood is changing. We want to at least start that discussion and re-awareness at this point in the capital improvement committee work and in the capital improvement plans. There is a schedule in future years for the water main extensions, the sanitary sewer extensions proposed. And while you will not see it specifically within the capital improvement plan, the street conditions out there, particularly Grove Road, is such that that really needs to be addressed, resurfaced in the foreseeable future. All of these streets were last resurfaced in 1991 or 1992. So it's coming up, and staff just believes it's good planning to look at, again, the utility needs in that area as we not only work with our capital plan, work with homeowners that may be desirous or needing sanitary sewers. Septic systems are not cheap to do extensive maintenance on or repairs to, and for the same price as doing extensive repairs, it may be in their best interest to pursue a sanitary sewer or connect to one if one was available. We acknowledge that we haven't had a lot of connections to either the water mains or the sanitary sewers, but at the same time, the city hasn't mandated that, hasn't really, over the years, looked at incentives, so to speak, to be able to get more people interested in that, all of which is something that may want to be considered. Over the years, we've done a couple of surveys on each street based on, at that time when homeowners, or at that time the Homeowners Association inquired about that, and we had never in the past gotten a majority of people on any given street to want to pay a share of costs to extend the sanitary sewers. Given that several years have passed, that may be something that, if council so desired, staff could look at again and survey areas to see if there's any change based on responses that we got 8, 10, 15 years ago. There's a number of financing methods, some of those that we reported to the council as far back as 2001 when one of the streets, the neighborhoods, was looking at a special service area. There's ways to reduce costs for an incentive for hooking up to a sanitary sewer within a certain amount of time and raising the cost later. And so without getting into too many specifics right now, it's kind of something that from a staff standpoint, we wanted to have this presentation and have some discussion as to determine whether the council wants to get additional information, get information from the homeowners, get information on finances, put more exacting schedules together, put more exacting costs together as we work with the Capital Improvements Committee, starting in the next couple of months as that group convenes and works towards the next 5 years of capital improvements. So that's where we are right now, and certainly welcome any discussion on the matter.
Okay, I guess before we give some direction, Fred, any discussion about this item from anyone on the council? Mr. Cannon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fred, a couple questions. I guess I wasn't aware that we have water over there relatively available to a lot of people back there. What's the response you get from people? What's the reason why they don't hook onto the water as long as we got it there?
I presume that the residents that are on private wells, if their well is working properly or if they do have maintenance needs and it is less than the $5,000 roughly that it would cost them to connect to city water plus the cost of extending the pipe, that's why they haven't connected. We had some people that connected immediately after we got the water mains in, but not too many, and it's been sporadic after that.
I know it seems like it's been more recent than 4 years ago we had this discussion, but in that time frame, whatever it is, you keep on mentioning that a number of people inquire every year. Why don't any of those people hook up to the water?
I can't really tell you why they don't hook up to the water, because when they do inquire, we tell them what the connection fee is. The majority of people that I've talked with from a public works standpoint are looking for sanitary sewer. And if it's on Old Plum Grove Road or part of Brockway Street, we've told them where the sewer is, what the connection fees are. We did have someone, I believe, 2 years ago on Brockway Street connect to the sanitary sewer after it was extended. But again, there's really not an incentive, I think, for them unless they have trouble with their existing facilities, either the well or the septic field.
The only time that I know someone inquired through me, they were getting ready to sell the property. So they were inquiring just to have that information for their own knowledge, but they weren't going to add up. And when the new owners came in, from the last time that I bumped into them, their wells are working perfectly fine, but they were given that number.
Okay. The house that's brand new, that's on Brockway at the south end of it, the second house from the end, I don't think they've even moved in here yet. Did they hook up to water and sewer?
Yes, because it's required and the water and sewer were already there.
Okay. I guess the other question is, you keep on mentioning about incentive. What kind of things would you be talking about? I mean, most of us that live here, if you have a house that's less than 40 or 30 years old, we paid for our sewer and water one way or another. Either we paid for it out of our pocket, or our developer paid for it. In my case, the developer, we bought a new home 25 years ago, but we paid for the water and sewer. We didn't get an incentive. And I don't want to punish anybody, but the other side of the coin is, we're looking at, the numbers you threw at us here are about $1 million just for the water and sewer. Plus, then we got to redo the streets on top of that. And I'm not sure if you're talking about putting curbs and gutters and sewers and that, or just putting a new top on stuff. But I mean, even that's going to be a substantial amount of money to do those streets, because I agree with you, they're in horrible shape. They're not in bad shape. They're in horrible shape, especially Grove. Grove's ridiculous. But I'm just wondering, what do you mean when you say incentive? Are you talking about as offering people a discount, or?
Yes. Certain opportunities can arise during installation where if homeowners wish to have their lateral installed from the new sewer to their property line, we can, include that with the cost of the excavation and the like, and I think that would be of some savings, because there's some economy of scale there, that if a contractor's putting in the main, certainly they can put in laterals probably a whole lot cheaper than to do it individually. Excuse me. The city could also consider lowering the connection fee for a period of time as an incentive. There's probably a number of ways, let alone any type of a special service area that could be considered for financing, to where homeowners could get a connection and not have to pay for it immediately, but pay for it over a period of 5 years or 8 years or 10 years, things like that. So there's a number of things that I think we would consider as potential incentives if this council were interested
for all
in
the
it.
years you've been here leading us, have you ever done that in another part of the city where you pretty much we force people into the system somehow?
We have not done that in all of my years in Rolling Meadows, but I have administered those in other places that I've worked before that incentives were either a certain number of years, a certain discount to doing a hookup at the time that the sewer is extended, by having the city contract for that work and just charging the homeowner back based on the actual costs. We've done special service areas in other communities for that to spread out the costs. A number of different tools have been used over my career in other communities.
Okay, I guess my last thought. I guess before we would move forward spending a lot of money here, obviously this is in my ward. I'm not against this. I'm reluctant to spend this kind of money after we got done with Old Plum Grove Road, as we've talked in before, and we've had an open session. Only 4 homes along that whole section hooked on. Only 4. So no matter what kind of incentive they got or didn't get, no one else thought it was worthwhile to do it. I don't mind spending the money if people will buy the service, but if we're going to spend $1 million plus the streets and we only get a handful of people to actually hook on, is it really a good investment on the city's part to be doing something like this? So I guess what I would suggest is a thought, is maybe we would consider either one, have a town hall meeting and invite all those people in that area to come in and voice their opinion. Surveys don't seem to be successful with us. People just don't seem to react to them one way or another. But maybe we would consider a town hall meeting and just say, hey, here's what we want to do. We're going to put a time frame. If we go ahead with this, I think we need to tell people, if we decide to go ahead with this, we're going to put a time frame on it, because I can't justify going to the rest of the city, the other 6 wards plus the rest of my ward, and say, hey, listen, we're going to spend $1 million or $2 million to do something that people might not even use. I'd have a hard time justifying that in my mind. So I guess I would really like to get some buy-in from the people that are there. If you remember when we had that one meeting here a few years ago, I don't remember it being 4 years ago, but it was a while back. There was literally 8 people sitting out there. And when we talked about spending some money, and they had to spend some money, 7 of those people literally got up and left the room. So again, I'm not angry about it, and I would really if the people will support it, I'm all for it. But I really don't want to spend, with all the needs we have in our city right now, of things need to be rebuilt and redone. I appreciate the position you're in the sewer division is in, but I just really don't want to go down this road unless we have some buy-in for more than just a handful of houses. So I guess I would just ask you to consider doing something like a town hall. If no one shows up at the town hall meeting, I think maybe our answers are laid out for us. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, and the point's well taken. We would certainly, from a staff standpoint, encourage having dialogue with the residents, and would hope that we could take advantage of that in 2017 with planning. Again, if the council, tonight or in the upcoming months says, no, we don't really want to look at extending the utilities at all, well, then we have our direction to work on the streets independent of that and put it off for another day. But we certainly didn't want to lose the opportunity during 2017 when there isn't anything yet budgeted. The earliest the Capital Improvements Committee indicates expenditures for utilities would be to, in 2018, work on engineering, and then in subsequent years look at extensions and then time that with street improvements. But we've certainly got time during this year to do it, and we appreciate the comments.
Okay, any other discussion, Mr. Diastis?
Yes, I agree with Mike Cannon. If I understand the cost benefit of doing sewers and water mains when we tear up the street, but if nobody's going to take advantage of it, then it's a lot of wasted money. So I would say a town hall meeting, a survey, something, and get buy-in and just tell people, if there isn't, we're redoing the streets and you won't have an opportunity for another 20 to do this. So I agree with what Mike is saying on this. I think let's not spend a lot of money if people don't want to take advantage of it.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Judd?
Thank you, sir. I think just with the Baxter and Woodman study that came out last year and showed the significant amount of money we have to spend to upgrade the infrastructure, this isn't a real good way to start spending the money unless a significant 75% of the people want it. Otherwise, I think you just leave it well enough alone right now. Thank you.
Fair enough. Any other discussion? Okay, with that in mind, is it appropriate then to maybe give both Barry and Fred some direction on where we want to go with this issue?
I think what we heard is that the council wants us first to do a town hall meeting / survey. We might have to do both as an education piece before we get them in here. And then find out what the discussion and what it would be overall. And then obviously the dual track would be, once we have some of that, also for the Capital Improvement Committee to keep that on its forefront in discussions. But it's a two-prong, but we've heard that already through 3. And if you just do the straw, I'm sure that you have more than 4 that would say continue with that survey / town hall meeting on discussion for interest.
Okay, fair enough. Anything to add to that, Fred, or is that kind of
No, if that's the desire of council, we will proceed accordingly and report back.
With that in mind, I won't repeat Barry's comment, but what we're trying to do here then is have both a town hall conversation and then put a recognition together that how much it's going to cost and what the plan would be to be able to do this. And what I'd like to do is have a show of hands then from the council on who would like to move forward on that alternative. And maybe let's just show a hand now who would like to move forward with that. Is that okay, Mr.? Mm-hmm. Okay.
About the town hall thing?
Yep,
Town
the town
hall
hall.
survey.
Number 1, let's start with the town hall. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. And then after you get the results of that, will you obviously please bring it back to us, and then we'll talk about the next step?
Yep.
Yes,
Okay, very
that's the
good.
plan. Thank you.
Okay, that pretty much ends the third item. There's been a request to go into closed session this evening for the following: the land acquisition, which falls under 5 ILCS 120/2C5 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act. This requires a motion and a roll call vote. Is there a motion to go into closed session this evening for the above purpose? Mr. Cannon has made the motion. Has it been seconded?
Seconded.
Mr. Prina, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the mayor please call the roll?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon, Prina,
Yes.
Majikis,
Yes.
Judd?
Yes.
Judd?
Yes.
Banger?
Yes.
And Mr. Diastis?
Sure.
Mr. Veenbos? It's unanimous. So with a unanimous vote, we will now enter a closed session. The press and audience are advised that the council does not plan on taking action upon returning to open session. Thank you very much.
I'm not doing the